25年，10000天之后的世界会是什么样的？
AI worked. Everybody loves it.
I just gave birth to a baby boy 2 months ago. His name is Benjamin.
Whatever Benjamin will be doing in 25 years, that job does not exist today.
Do we still need reporters?
Maybe even more of them.
You picture the future when smart glasses are going to replace
You go into the mirror world to interact with AIs and robots. I would probably bet on a Chinese company over Apple of figuring this out.
robotics.
In 25 years, they'll be cheaper, but they won't be any better.
Autonomous driving.
Getting a license might become more difficult.
Space tech.
I don't think there will be any cities on Mars, ever.
Are you a fan of chasing longevity?
I don't want to die, but I'm not afraid of it.
Lastly, BCI.
This is one area that is moving faster than I thought.
How will Silicon Valley be different in the next 25
that's
years?
a great question.
Hello， 大家好，欢迎来到硅谷101，我是陈倩。在6月中旬，我们有幸在硅谷专访了凯文·凯利。凯文·凯利呢，被大家亲切地称为 K.K， 是连线杂志的创始主编。也因为他对科技与商业的独到见解还有准确预言呢，被称之为硅谷精神之父。多年来，他的著作包括《失控》还有《必然》等书籍呢，是成为了众多科技从业者、投资人、媒体人还有创业者们的必读清单啊，是引发了非常多的思考。那特别巧的是，我们的视频剪辑同事 Jacob 正是读了 K.K 的一篇对内容创作的博文，而决定加入我们硅谷101，也是特别的有缘分了。而这次的对话呢，我们的话题集中在 K.K 发布的新书2049未来10000天的可能。那么作为一个新手妈妈啊，我特别的好奇10000天之后我们的生活、社会、世界都是什么样子的？我们下一代的孩子们成长的轨迹是如何的？以及呢，他们到时候生活在一个什么样的环境中？那么这期节目呢是全英文对话，可能节奏会比较慢，但是呢，我还是推荐大家静下心来感受一下 KK 的智慧，以及呢他对未来的畅想和思考。反正我个人收获非常大，也希望呢对你思考未来发展有所帮助。所以呢，以下就是我们的专访内容。
So my first question, tell us a bit about your new book. It's called 2049, The Next 10,000 Days.
Right.
Why did you write this book? What message do you want to deliver to the audience?
Right. So this is a little prototype of the book. It's a book that is trying to imagine a world in 25 years that's actually a world that we want to live in, an optimistic world, a world in which things work out. And it tries to imagine multiple ways in which transportation, employment, internet, entertainment work out well as trying to imagine the way in which China's role in the world also works out well. So these are optimistic scenarios in 25 years.
那 KK 对于未来的预测，在我看来呢，是有一些过于乐观和正面。在实验室的技术突破和论文发表是可以很迅速的，但是要让技术真正的落地，走进大众的千家万户呢，却经常比我们想象中更加困难。同时呢，技术是一把双刃剑，它带来的负面影响呢，会改变社会关系的种种结构。所以呢，我其实在技术上还是一个挺长期悲观者的。但是 KK 对我解释说，他的目的并不是为未来做预测，而是提供人类最乐观未来场景的思考，以及我们怎么才能够达到那一天。
You made a few predictions in the book, which we will go into details later. But I would say some of them are quite ambitious and optimistic. I'm wondering what's your metrics when making those predictions?
I will clarify, and this might be a matter of translation, but I'm trying not to do predictions. These are scenarios. A scenario comes in a set. There's multiple answers. It's not saying this is how it's going to be. It's saying this is how it could be. The method is trying to work backwards from imagining in 25 years from now, if someone came back from the future and said, it really is great. AI worked. Everybody loves it. Not that it was perfect, but just that it worked. And so the question will be, well, how do we get there? What would be the steps in 25 years for us to arrive at that moment? And so that's what the book, that's one of the methods for the book, is to try and think about the best case scenario. Not a perfect one, but one that worked.
You said in your book that most of these predictions or scenarios won't necessarily become the reality, but the purpose is just to make people think and reshape the future. So what kind of future you want to reshape?
Sure. And that's a fair question. The idea is that these technologies, stuff is so complicated that it's very unlikely that we could have a desirable future accidentally. We kind of have to actually, you can't have it inadvertently. You actually have to kind of make it happen. And you can't make it happen unless you can see it first. So part of the book is trying to help people imagine a world in which they would want to live and then try to make it happen. But if you can't imagine it, then you won't get there. And most of the science fiction stories and movies are all disasters about the future.
Yeah.
So the world is, in 25 years, again, it's not perfect.
Right. At the same time, I think people know that tech is double-edged sword.
Yes.
The Black Mirror episodes coming out this year shows a lot of dark side of the tech. People were talking about it. AI expert like Jeffrey Hinton is warning about the dark side of AI as well. Are you concerned?
I am not very concerned. I don't spend much time with the scenarios that are negative because thousands and thousands of people, most reporters, most book writers, most TV people, most Hollywood movies are exploring the downsides.
Right.
So I don't need to do that. My job is to talk about the upside because very few people are talking about that. So I think they're real. I think those possibilities are real. They're significant, but I don't mention them because I don't need to. Everybody knows them. It's the first thing they have. If you talk about AI in the future, it's only negative. So I don't need to do that.
Right.
当谈到未来世界的时候啊，我身边很多人最关心的话题之一就是教育。当你输入一个简单的 prompt 之后呢 ，ChatGPT 这样的 chatbot 就可以直接给你答案，还能帮你写论文、写邮件、写简历，更别提当之后 AI agent 成熟之后，更多的工作和任务呢都可以交由 AI 来完成。那么我们下一代子女成长起来之后，他们面对的世界是什么样的呢？为人父母，我们又应该给他们创造什么样的教育，来为这样的未来做好准备呢？凯文·凯利在书中写道，如果终身学习成为常态，人人都有高效的 AI 助手，我们就需要重新反思基础教育和高等教育。AI 的发展让个性化和定制化服务变得充满想象力，无论是定制化医疗还是定制化教育。所以呢，关于教育的问题，我也抛给了 KK， 以下就是我们的对话。
I just gave birth to a baby boy 2 months ago. His name is Benjamin. I'm thinking when he grows up, you know, the way, you know, he's using ChatGPT and all the AI tools and his like growth environment will be so different from my age.
That's true.
Will our education system be totally different for the next 25 years? And how should we prepare for that?
Right now, I think most students are learning more on YouTube than at school. I think that will continue. Schools will have to adapt. Right now, there's a big controversy about kids using chat AIs to write papers, and the question is, well, why is that important? Of course they're going to use AI to help write papers. You don't want to prohibit it, you want to help them do it well. AI will obviously be a central factor in learning, and I think, as I said, one of the main things it can do is it can enable each student to progress at their own pace. But more importantly, I think the skill, what you want to graduate from high school, say, is not any particular knowledge that you have, and it's not even a major skill other than the primary skill of being able to maximize your learning, knowing how to learn. So what you want to learn in school is learning how to learn. You want to graduate being very conscious of exactly how to optimize your own learning, because whatever occupation you go into does not exist today. All right? Whatever Benjamin will be doing in 25 years, that job, that role does not exist today. So even probably when they graduate from high school, it doesn't exist.
Right.
They're going to have to learn it. So we want to have kids graduate really knowing how to optimize their own learning in the many different ways that are to learn physical things, conceptual things. And so learning how to learn becomes a central course, and asking questions. So answers, the AIs will give you all the answers you want. You don't have to make answers as a student. You have to learn how to ask questions. Questions are much more valuable, much more creative, much harder for even an AI to do. Good questions. Asking questions, learning how to learn, moving at your own pace. Those are some of the things I see in education.
Right. In China this month, over 13.3 million Chinese students attended the college entrance exam, and they're going to universities in September later this year. Many of them are quite anxious about the major that they should choose at university level for undergrad study, because that decides what kind of job they will get after 4 years when they go to society. What's your advice to them? Or it doesn't matter anymore because AI will take most of the jobs? Or
no, AI is not going to take the jobs. That's what I'm saying. AI is not taking the jobs. AI will do a lot of their tasks. So the nature of the job will change. You'll have different tasks. My advice for people graduating is to really follow their enthusiasm, to not be concerned about the economics of it, because that's changing very, very fast. And it's very hard to predict what's going to be the highest paying job. And that money should not be the thing that they're focused on. Money is a byproduct of other satisfactions. Money is a byproduct of doing something fabulous, doing it well. The money will come. People think that that's something that you can say if you're privileged, but it's absolutely true even for poor people. You want to be useful, you want to do things well, you want to be valuable first, and then the money will come. And that's true in occupation. Follow something that you love to do, that you're good at, master something. So the thing I tell young people, and it would be true in China, is master something. It doesn't matter what it is. Become the expert on something. It could be something frivolous like a sport. It could be a hobby where you become a master knitter or sewer. Whatever it is, become master of that, and that will take you on a journey to somewhere that you didn't expect. And so don't think that you need to be a doctor or a lawyer because that's some pathway to something. It's not. If you really want to become a doctor or a lawyer, spend a week shadowing a doctor or a lawyer and see what their life is like. See if you want that life.
那我个人第二关心的话题呢，是未来1万天之后呢 AI 与内容的关系，甚至是 AI 其实颠覆最大的产业呢，就是内容产业。那届时啊，你我读到的文章、听的音乐和播客、看到的视频和电影啊，都会有大量的 AI 的参与。那么这对内容创作者意味着什么呢？2049年的世界还需要媒体和记者吗？到时候的舆论平台和渠道会发生什么样的变化呢？那么 KK 作为连线杂志的创始主编啊，我也特别想听一下他对我们硅谷101的建议，在未来25年，我应该如何的去继续打造我们的内容品牌呢？
I want to ask about AI in content creation and the media industry, because that's relevant to my job and decides whether I will be replaced by AI very soon. So you mentioned in your book that due to AI, the bar of the media industry will become even lower. Do we still need reporters in 25 years, in 2049?
Yes, for sure, maybe even more of them. The thing about the AIs, what we're learning about them is that, again, they can produce answers, they can do research. Maybe in 25 years, they'll be able to do enough to call up somebody or email. They may read a paper and, understand this is an important paper, and here's the name of the professor, and they'll contact this professor and ask a question. I think that's very, very possible. But where the human will be involved is overseeing all these agents and taking responsibility for the output. Right now, if an AI gets something wrong, who do you blame?
Right.
Who's going to guarantee that? And part of what a job is not just doing the job, but you are promising the job will be good, and if not, you'll make it good. I mean, that's part of what a job is. If you hire someone and they don't do it right, it's their responsibility. They've got to make it right or do it over. In AI, there isn't that responsibility. There's no accountability. There's nothing saying, I ensure or I guarantee that this will be good. And so for at least in 25 years, that's a job for a human. You'll be overseeing AIs who are doing research, but you are going to be the one, the reporter, the human reporter is the one who's guaranteeing the responsibility of the job and saying, you can trust me.
It's so interesting to observe the shift of media power over the past 20 years. It was firstly centralized in newspapers and television, and then with the rise of .com and mobile, the power shifted to digital media like the Wired magazine, which you founded, and also Twitter, Instagram, and other social media, as everyone can become what's called a citizen journalist, right? So I'm wondering, like with so much content being produced by AI for the next 25 years, whether it's good or bad, what will be the next platform for voices in public opinion?
It's a good question, and I think many of the forms that we have now, we have blogs which are sort of turned into Substack newsletters, which are kind of the same thing. They're just push version. Instead of you going to it, they're going to put out their blog. So I think the idea of having individuals writing stuff, that will still be there in 25 years. I think there'll still be streams of news, which are like TV stations or newspapers. They have video, whatever, but they're streaming recent updates. That'll continue, but we'll have some new things as well, which is much more experiential, where wearing some kind of glasses that can immerse you in another world. Someone will take you to Tehran, on the streets of Tehran today, and you will walk around with them to experience the bombing structures. You can feel it and look around, and it'll be like you were in Tehran. So the experiential nature of things like news will increase. So it's not just that someone's reporting, standing there with a microphone. No, you will be there. You'll feel like you're there yourself, looking around, and that can be manipulated like other things, but that will be another component in the news in 25 years.
As I continue to build Value 101, I want to get your advice on how should I prepare for the media thing that I'm building.
The thing about media, because observing the media over time, which is the bigger and more successful a media property is, the harder it is to adapt to something new, because they have much more to lose. And they have a machine that needs to be fed. And if they take resources from feeding the machine, a lot of people are impacted. If they make a mistake and bet on the wrong thing, a lot of people are impacted. If you're a startup, you have very little to lose. There's a couple people, and if you bet wrong, you go out of business, okay, there's no commitment, you don't have obligations and stuff. So the bigger you get, the more successful you are, the harder it is to adapt to the new thing. It's not easier. You would think, well, you have the resources to it, but it doesn't work out that way. It's actually harder. So in some senses, if you are small, you actually have an advantage to adapt to whatever's coming next. I would say that you just have to keep trying things, or you have to budget a certain amount to try and know that you're going to fail on that. It's an experiment that's unlikely to succeed. And you have to kind of persevere, and then you have to be willing to, when that fails, to do it again, which is very, very hard in the media world, where you try something, we tried that and it didn't work. And no, you have to keep trying, because the first 10 aren't going to work. And so so I would say, like for me, one of the things right now, I say that YouTube is way, way underrated. It is powerful. It is becoming more powerful. And once Google adds the AI search and stuff, it's going to become even more powerful. And so the YouTube verse is something that I think is sort of like the next big thing, where you're putting out your video, you have your channels, whatnot. There is some compensation, and they're trying, to have VR, and they'll once there are spatial video stuff, they'll take that.
那接下来我们的对话聚焦在特定的科技领域当中。在书中KK 对未来的畅想的一个重要逻辑是，25年之后，我们的世界会进入到所谓的镜像世界。他写道，到了2049年，大多数智能手机将会被智能眼镜所取代。当数十亿生活在城市地区的人戴上这些智能眼镜的时候，他们看到的是现实世界与虚拟世界的叠加。对于这个虚拟世界，一些人称之为元宇宙，一些人称之为 AR 增强现实，甚至是 XR 扩展现实，我称之为镜像世界。因为你所看到的既是现实世界，也叠加着一个现实世界的数字孪生。
picture the future when smart glasses are going to replace smartphones. And we're living in the so-called mirror world, which is the digital twin of our real world. Can you elaborate a little bit more of the concept?
There's like maybe 4 different ways to think about this mirror world. One is that it's like virtual reality where you put on the goggles, and you block out the real world and you can see an imaginary world. But it's in 3 dimensions with sound, and it feels very, very real. For anybody who's had the chance to try it, it can be very persuasive. That's the second part of it, where you have a spatial digital twin. So your digital twin, your avatar, and you are at home with a camera and you see me as a digital twin. You can do things with training, education, surgery, all kinds of stuff once you have that ability to merge the real world and the digital world into one thing. So that's at one level what it is. But it's also more than that. It's also the world that a self-driving car, like a Waymo car, when it's driving down the road, the world that it sees is that world. It sees not just the physical world, but it sees all the other layers of it. It knows when the traffic lights are turning, it knows the signs, it knows the speed limit. It has an overlay of all this other information that it's been told about, the map information, in addition to what it sees. And so that combined world is the world that robots and AIs work in. So when we meet or work with AIs and robots, we go into that world. We go into the mirror world to interact with AIs and robots. That's the second or third level. And then there's even another additional level of this mirror world, which is that it is only possible to render this because of AI. AI has to be really cheap, really fast. It has to work at the level of your goggles, not just back at headquarters. Your goggles have to have some level of intelligence in it as your glasses as well in order to do this. And so this world is only possible if AI becomes really cheap and it fuses the world. But also, once AI comes into the world, this world, the real world, is inevitable. You have that world. When you put the glasses on and look around, it starts to map the whole world. It's mapping it. It's recording it and it's digesting it. It's, oh, that's the stairs. That's the stairs that goes up there. Oh, there's a door there, so you can go up there. It's understanding the whole world. So once we put glasses on, we make that world no matter what. It's a consequence of the fact that AI is seeing the whole world and understanding it by having 1 million people wearing glasses and having it all scanned. So it's just the natural outcome of having AI and smart glasses. You're going to get that world. But I think a bigger shock is coming in the next 25 years. And that is the shock of how emotional the AIs will be and how we will emotionally bond to them. Right now, people can love their dogs. They have a very strong relationship with a dog that doesn't even talk. Imagine if a dog could talk back to you and answer questions, chat with you and tell you things that you didn't know, or tell you things about yourself. And how strong would you have a relationship with that dog? Yeah. Well, that's what the AIs are going to be doing.
The emotion will be like
they're just going to go really high. Yeah. And there's definitely going to be people who fall in love with them. There's definitely going to be people who have very strong friendships, very strong working relationships with these at an emotional level. And there'll be people who will get very angry at the AIs, or they will get furious. I mean, it's the emotional level that we're going to have. And we're going to program in emotions to the AIs because humans respond to that. That's a human scale thing. We respond to emotional signals. And so there will be AIs people will put in delight, surprise, perplexity, seriousness, joking into the AIs because that will be very attractive to people. And I think that's going to be a real shock.
那 KK 对镜像世界的预测以及跟硅谷以及全球科技界很多技术领袖的看法是类似的，这就是为什么看到如今百镜大战正在打响。那么在硅谷、苹果、谷歌、Meta 等一众的科技巨头都在推出新的 AI 或者 XR 眼镜，在中国市场我们看到也是觉得很厉害啊。我们在最近几年的 CES 展上看到非常多的商家来展示他们的产品和技术，而 KK 呢有一个很有趣的预测，他认为百镜大战的最终赢家可能不是苹果，而是一家中国公司。
I think the competition of smart glasses is getting really intense this year. I'm wondering, at the end of this glass war, who will be the final winner, or what makes a final winner?
Yeah, I have no idea who will win, but I think the challenge we know from, I saw first virtual reality in 1987. And I thought that was going to happen very fast. I was wrong. I was very, very wrong.
Yeah.
So the technical challenges of doing this are very, very extreme. And it's not just one. There are many, including power. I mean, we don't want to have a tether. We don't want to have a cable. So just giving enough power to these glasses to be able to do what we want to do for hours, that's huge, huge technological innovations needed to do that. The field of view is huge. So the answer is this: the winner will be a company that figures out how to solve 5 major breakthroughs all at once. Even Apple, they can't do it. I mean, they might do it, but they haven't been able to do it. And so there's just a lot that we're asking for. From what I see so far, I think we're still 5 to 10 years away before we get the smart glasses that people will wear. I mean, maybe more than 10 years. I think 25 years it may take, because I think there's I don't think we're close yet to them.
Maybe each company can solve part of the question, and then we combine them together.
Right. It's sort of like, we had cell phones for many, many years, but they were these big things, and it took something like smartphones, but it took something like an iPhone to really bring it together. So that was 15 years or more after the cell phones. It took a tremendous amount of work to kind of bring it all together in a form that, a slab like this that didn't have a keyboard, it touched. So just inventing the touch screen thing to make it work, that was a critical component of that. Without it, if you just had buttons, it's just not going to, or keyboard, it's just not going to work. And so there were so many things. It took a long time to turn the cell phone into the smart mobile phone.
Yeah.
And that's where the smart glasses are. It's at least a decade, maybe 2 decades.
Yeah. Do you think Chinese companies have a chance?
Absolutely. Chinese companies.
Because of the supply chain?
Yes. All kinds of reasons. So I would probably bet on a Chinese company over Apple figuring this out. If I had to make a bet, I would bet that it would be a Chinese company that makes the smart glasses that everybody wants. But it'll still take a decade. Yeah,
the reason being because the hardware is cheaper in China?
In a curious way, I think there's a technical know-how that's a lot of this is very materials oriented. And I think there's an advantage of the ecosystem that China has to accelerate that. And also, I think that there is a little bit more willingness to experiment, to do something halfway, and that's not quite there, and yet maybe find some use for it or make it work for them at a halfway. So I think a number of things conspire to make it more likely for China to invent this.
那么接下来呢，我针对 KK 书中描述的未来25年最重要的5大技术呢，跟它有着分别的探讨。那这分别是机器人、无人驾驶、太空旅行、生命科学，还有脑机接口。那么有意思的是，这些领域呢，都是我们硅谷101已经做过，或者呢是接下来想要着重做的选题内容啊。所以呢，我个人也是非常的感兴趣。而 KK 在书中啊，很详细的去描述了对每一个技术会带来的潜在革命性改变，有技术能够做到的，也有技术还做不到的。
First of all, robotics. So can humanoid robots go into billions of family homes, or we're only talking about like a robotic arms in the factory?
Yeah. The humanoid, I think we're going to confront or see humanoids in our work like before we see it in their home. Though I think the home is sort of the last place that we'll see it. I think we'll see it like in warehouses where they're moving around to do things, or in fast food restaurants that there could be cooking. I think because one thing is we do want a much more constrained set of chores.
Right.
Home, it's very wide open. I think it's really hard. And also, like humanoids, we think of hands, arms, and hands. The hand is one of the most remarkable things. What we can manipulate, like sewing a needle with this, at the same time we can use it to lift 100 pounds. It's like that's so hard for machines to do, and it's not just IQ. It's not just intelligence. There's just some physical, material things to replicate the touch that we have. We can use it to press, and at the same time pressing, we can feel it. I mean, it's like that's really hard. So I think this is a home robot is maybe not really even in 25 years. I think there will be some for sale, but not in millions.
Yeah, but I feel like companies and some people are very obsessed with making the humanoid, like Elon Musk and others.
I think I learned from virtual reality, which I saw almost 40 years ago, and I thought, okay, it's pretty good. It's if you saw it now, say it's pretty good. And yet 40 years later, what happened is that it mostly just decreased in costs. The VR is actually not better. It's just that it's millions times cheaper, because back then it took millions of dollars to do it. And I think it's the same with the home robots. Right now, to do one of those things is probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I think in 25 years they'll be cheaper, but they won't be any better. All right? You'll have the Tesla, whatever it is, the human robot. It'll be only $1,000, but it's not going to be any better than the one that they have right now. I mean, it's serving a little bit better, but it's. I think it's really, really hard. So we will get it. We're on that path. I'm just saying it's going to be slower than most people think.
Great, fair enough. And autonomous driving. So in 25 years, do human beings still need to drive?
Yeah.
There's no need for our next generation to get a driver license?
That's a good question. Getting a license might become more difficult.
Oh, why?
Because if you have enough AI-driven cars, they drive better than humans.
Yeah, much better.
Much better. And so you have to learn how to drive when you're surrounded by other smarter cars, which means that your driving skills have to be better. So I think it would be more difficult in the sense that the skill that you would need will go up. And I think the where you can drive yourself would also start to shrink. So you might not be able to drive in certain cities in the downtown because they don't want you there, because you're not driving as well, because they can control the traffic better with the AI. And so you may not be able to drive downtown, or you may only be able to drive on certain highway lanes. So it's possible in 25 years that the appeal of driving is not as great. And so you may have a choice of like, do you want to buy a self-driving car? Then maybe you can't drive a self-driving car.
There's no wheels.
There's no wheels and stuff. And so you have the choice. And I'm going to buy a self-driving car because it'll pick me up whenever I need it in a park and whatever, rather than having two cars. So I think there will be people driving but it'll be like getting a pilot's license. I think it'll be a little bit rarer, and you have to have a little bit higher quality training.
Right, interesting. And space tech. So I think people like Elon Musk kept talking about going to Mars and make human beings multi-planetary. Do you see the need for us to be multi-planetary?
Well, I don't think there will be any cities on Mars, ever.
And then what's the purpose of going there?
I think it's like going to the moon. There's no real economic reason to go to the moon. I mean, it's not. There's spin-offs of the technology that you devised. Going to the moon helped give us the technology to have satellites, which are very, very valuable. So there will be some indirect economic benefits of going to Mars, just learning how to do that, learning how to have self-contained living services for 2 years. The technology used to get to Mars would also be useful for mining asteroids near Earth. So I think most of the space that's economically valuable is within near Earth. It makes sense to have these theatrical gestures of having a research station on the moon or a research station on Mars, but that's all it will ever be. It'll be a research station that's very expensive to maintain, and it's not a very good life. You have to live underground.
Yeah.
It's like, who wants to live underground for 2 years? If something happens, you're stuck there. You're more likely to die. So I don't think there's going to be very many people it's going to be a small group, maybe 8 people at the most. I mean, there's people who live on the South Pole. It's a research station. So there'll be a research station on Mars, but that's it. That's all that will be. Nobody, it's a million times easier to build a city at the bottom of our oceans on Earth.
Yeah.
But we haven't done that. Why not?
It's hard.
And building on Mars is a million times more difficult.
Yeah.
So we'll have a research station at great expense, but that will teach us a lot of things. There will be economic benefit indirectly from that research, but there's no reason why people will live on Mars in a city. It's just not.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen.
Probably one of the reasons being multiplanetary is to find the next Earth.
Yeah, but we'll send out probes, AIs. That's a good reason. And that's one of the reasons why the Mars doesn't work is we can send out an AI, we can send out cameras, we can send out a virtual reality that will be just as good as a human. Humans don't need to go. We could have an AI drive a cart around and do the exploring and report back to us every hour. We don't need to send human flesh. It's just we don't belong in space.
Yeah, agreed. Then next, let's talk about life science and also longevity. A personal question, are you afraid of death?
I don't want to die, but I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah. In Silicon Valley, we now see many billionaires like Brian Johnson are trying different methods to live longer, stay young, and become, or at least look younger. Are you a fan of chasing longevity?
No, I'm not. I also think that's over the actual longevity part. I mean, there's 2 parts of longevity. One is you want to extend your healthy period. You don't. It's not just a matter of extending your years. You want to extend how long you're healthy, which is I am all favor of that. That is a really good idea. I think the idea of extending the actual age limit will progress very, very slowly, and it's not happening as fast. So I'm all for the idea of trying to maximize your healthy age, but I don't see the age extension. I think it's slow. Some people say, well, if you can extend it for 1 year per year, if every year you can extend how long people live, then in theory you could keep going. But I don't think we're anywhere near 1 year per year. I think it's even the outliers, even the most extreme versions are not living that much longer. Extending the healthy age is a fantastic idea.
Great. I know AI is being used in many verticals in biotech as well as pharmaceutical industry, and we are making huge progress, which means maybe major disease like all kinds of cancers will be cured very soon. People are living longer and healthier. Maybe they will retire much later as well. What does it mean to our society? Will that shift the society structure and the order?
I do think that there's a chance to have like a pan-viral vaccine, and even cancer vaccines are talking about. Those seem, 25 years, those seem reasonable, possible, that we could have a vaccine for most viruses, across all viruses. We do see people living longer, and we also, in 25 years, we're going to see the Earth's population shrink as a whole, China as well. And so that's combining, so we have fewer and fewer children and more old people. And so that's true not just in China, but it's going to be true for a lot of the world, but especially for China. That's going to be, that's a challenge for innovation and new ideas when you have mostly old people and fewer young people willing to take chances and with very little to lose. So I think that it's going to be a challenge for us, even in 25 years. I think one of the solutions to that is AI. Where you have AI who also consume things, not just generate things, where you have an economy built. So economically, I think we could solve the problem. Culturally, that's a little bit more difficult, because in Japan we see a little bit that, where the young people are stymied because all the old people still have jobs, and there's no way to move up, and there's no room for a crazy idea. So socially, there might be some innovation needed to overcome the demographics that we'll see in 25 years. I'm a little bit more radical in my prediction about the global collapse. Officially, the World Health Organization and UN says it's not going to happen until 2070, but I think it's going to happen by 2046, 15 years from now. We'll begin to have a smaller Earth. It won't be noticeable right away because it's just at the beginning, but I think the consequences are already starting to happen.
Lastly, BCI. We are witnessing big progress in companies like Neuralink. There are many startups in this field as well. How far can we go in the next 25 years?
Yeah, this is one area that is moving faster than I thought. It would be 100 years before we have something that could read our mind, but there's lots of experiments and startups happening where you put a cap on your head and it can extract out signals. You can, control things by thinking about it. You can go back and forth, have feedback. I think there's going to be very few people who will drill things into their head. Who have invasive surgery. I just don't think, people who are medically need it, paraplegics and others, yes, for sure. But I think a normal person, is not, there'll be some crazy, but I don't think most people don't want to put something in their head. So it has to be something that you wear on your head.
Non-invasive.
Non-invasive. I think in 25 years, we will have non-invasive brain-mind connection. I can't say how accurate or how it will be used, but I think it will be there. Maybe gamers play it because it might give them a tiny edge in terms of latency, how fast they can respond. They don't have to go through their arm. They can just think it. So maybe the gamers play it. Maybe this is for people who, like maybe artists. Maybe this is a form of art where you can just, it doesn't have to go through your arms again. You can just sort of imagine it. Maybe this is a way to build worlds. It's really unclear exactly how you use it in a non-medical way. So maybe it's not as useful as we think. Maybe it's something that we could have imagined it being cooler than it really is. I don't know.
Last question. How will Silicon Valley be different in the next 25 years?
That's a great question. I haven't thought about that.
Maybe some of the big tech will fall and some new names will rise.
Well, of course. I've been talking about AI for at least 15 years, and I've almost every talk said that the disruption is unlikely to come from the establishment like Google, Facebook, Amazon. It's going to come from a startup, which is exactly what happened. OpenAI, Anthropic. So for sure, there will be a whole new crop, rising stars in the valley. But I wouldn't say that's changing the valley any, because the question I would have is that's just like the current. It's the same race when you have new contestants. But the question is, does the race change? Does the game change? How does the process of Silicon Valley itself change? And that's a little bit more interesting. Does VC change any? And there has been adaptations in how much does AI change the nature of funding and hiring? I haven't thought about that, but it's a good question. I would guess that the special place that Silicon Valley has in the world will continue. Just like the role of Shenzhen in the Delta area will continue in China, no matter what happens in the US. There's enough of a critical mass, and it's deep enough that in terms of manufacturing and materials, that part of China will continue in 25 years. But there might be ways in which the path of how you succeed through Silicon Valley could change. One of the things is the housing issue, where people simply can't afford to take a chance. So if there was things like that happened, I think that would be really good. But there might be ways in which AI could change the nature of Silicon Valley and the funding, making it even easier to start something, easier than it is today. So there's even more startups. I'm not really sure. It's a good question. I haven't thought about it. I was a little more interested in what, rather than the old ones dying, is how would the new ones change? What would that process be? What would the typical path be? Maybe there's more crowdfunding. It's possible AI might help that a little bit. People investing even earlier, like VCs do. A Kickstarter version of VC, that could be something.
Yeah.
Well, it was a great conversation anyway.
好，以上就是我和凯文凯利 KK 的对话全部内容。因为视频时长关系呢，我们也删掉了一些太细节的对话内容。如果大家感兴趣呢，也可以去买他的书来读读。我相信啊，在阅读的过程当中啊，大家能够对10000天之后的世界有更清晰的认识和想法。当然呢，我能猜到有观众在留言中会说，25年之后真的是太久远了，谁能够预料的真正能够发生什么呢？没错，这也就是 KK 的目的。未来是难以预测的，但是是不能想象的。在这次对话之后呢，我已经开始期待25年之后的世界了。虽然那个时候呢，不知道我是不是已经退休了，娃呢也已经大学毕业进入职场了，但是呢，听上去应该还是一个不错的世界。我也希望呢，在未来10000天为大家记录科技帮助这个世界成长的过程。那么最后呢，给大家看看2个月的 Benjamin 小朋友的照片。好，我们这期视频就这样了。你们的点赞、关注、留言和转发是支持我们硅谷101做好深度科技和商业内容的最佳动力。那么我们就下期视频再见了，拜。